On that, I think Manchester United have got more options than just Maguire.
Yeah.
I think they're keen. I think Manchester City are keen, but I think Leicester have got to be careful because, you know, is he a better player than Virgil van Dijk? I don't think he is.
No.
You know, so I think there are options there. So, but yeah, if another centre back comes in, which I think will certainly happen.
Hello guys and welcome to the United Stand. I've got another special guest with me, Mr. James Cooper. How you doing?
Very well, how are you? All right, yeah.
I'm good. Obviously, thank you all, before we get into this, 500 KD, we're still happy, we're still celebrating, and it's been fantastic. So look, let's get straight into it. I want to talk transfers. I know it's really difficult.
No, it's fine.
Because it's transfers every day, it's transfer this, it's transfer that, but our midfield area, I just want to home in on that. We'll talk about the Pogba thing in terms of if he leaves.
Yeah, we'll do all that. That's no problem. Yeah.
Longstaff, Fernandes, and what you think of who United are looking at in that area.
Yeah, I mean it's difficult. I mean, look, they have looked at Sean Longstaff. There's no doubt about that. But he's only played a few games. There's no way they're going to lash out £50 million on Sean Longstaff. He's on a list. Yeah. I'm not quite sure where he is on that list. Likewise with Bruno Fernandes, he's a goal-scoring midfielder, and some United fans would say we haven't got one of those.
Absolutely.
But again, that's being pushed from the Portuguese end of the market. You know, Sporting Lisbon are doing all the donkey work on that and trying to get this all sorted and talk about timeframes and things like that. I think Manchester United are pretty relaxed. I think you mentioned Pogba. I think the situation is with a lot of what United might do, it's about who stays, who goes. You know, and I think at the moment, if we can do the Pogba stuff now, if you like, I think at the moment, sat here right now, there's more chance of him staying than going.
It does look like that, doesn't it?
You know, because I've said it all week on Sky out here. You know, the economics are in, I guess, Manchester United's favour. I think there's a difficult thing which we're probably going to explore about how the fans feel about it. But if we're looking at cash and money, you know, Real Madrid, Juventus, all those teams have spent big money already. There's not a lot left. Then you look at how Pogba's played over the last couple of seasons. You might tell me different, but I don't think there's 90 minutes where he's played 90 minutes and ruled a 90 minutes. There's been 20-minute pockets of really good form. There's a second half, of course, against Manchester City in the derby, but not a 90-minute game where you say, "Wow, that guy was incredible." You know, and arguably, you know, United's best performance last year against PSG, he was on the bench. Well, he wasn't even playing because he was getting he was watching like the rest of us. So I don't think there are many clubs at the moment who've got the cash to spend on him and the wages then, because we're looking at, you know, £250,000, £300,000 a week, and again, the economics are in Manchester United's favour, much like De Gea. Again, another thing we can perhaps mention later. But I think at the moment, the biggest problem is going to be if Pogba does stay, how the fans are with him and how Manchester United try and sell that back to the fans.
Well, exactly. I mean, Ollie seems to be backing him massively. If he does stay, in terms of, do you think they have a contingency in terms of, okay, let's say he does stay, we'll maybe get one in then, or?
I think there will be, but I think then it might be a younger midfielder that kind of fits in, because I think the point that Ollie was trying to make is they've got McTominay, they've got James Garner coming through, they've got players that can play in the middle, and they've got Matic clearly as well, and Mata can play there, and there are options there. But I think if Pogba stayed, they'd probably go for something more junior, because you're not going to get a senior guy coming in, even a Bruno Fernandes, who might spend more time on the bench than he is playing, because you still play Paul Pogba as your starting midfielder in every game, because I think we're all hoping that we see the world-class player that we haven't seen, because there is one in there.
Yeah. Do you think he does absolutely one out? I know I did talk about this with Simon Peach, but just for your
I think it's difficult to work it out. I mean, you watch him and his body language is so bizarre anyway. You know, he walks strange, he runs strange. He wants to be,
that is a misconception.
You know, it's a little bit like Martial, a different thing. You know, he looks sullen, and I'm told that he's happy at Manchester United and has quite a dry sense of humour, just very, very quiet, but sends strange messages. I think with Pogba it comes down to money. I'm not calling him a mercenary, because that would be the wrong thing to say, but I think he'll go where the money is. And I think this is either about getting a new deal at Manchester United or getting more money somewhere else. So I think it comes down to that. I don't think he's really that bothered where he plays at the moment. But, you know, I love what he does at Manchester United. I love what Manchester United stand for as a club. But, you know, if Barcelona, Real Madrid or Juventus come knocking on the door, that's a real tempting thing. But I just don't think economics mean that will happen. And I think it's more likely that Paul Pogba will be a Manchester United player. But, you know, we've still got a couple of weeks, 2.5 weeks of the window.
Things
can change.
Exactly. I mean, when that came out with his comments in Japan, you know, I'm looking for a new challenge, I instantly said, because up until that point I was still pro Pogba, I supported him, I wanted him to get it right, is what I'm saying. Like you said about United fans, it's been very divisive, especially back end of last season. I'm sure you've seen the video about
absolutely.
You know, Oscar, I think, put it up as well. the divisiveness of if he stays, because at that point I was like, right, he said he wants to leave now. There's no way back. I just thought that. I know Rooney had a little period of that, but it's a bit different. I think he endeared himself to the fans.
He did, but he turned that. But he did still turn that situation
he turned
around,
it round.
which shows you can do it.
It can be done.
You know, the difficult thing is that if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer says, you know, Pogba stays, I'm going to make him my captain. The new guys have got to get behind him.
Absolutely.
You know, so that might turn it round as well. And I wouldn't rule that out because
even Brian Robson was maybe not saying about the captaincy, but saying he should just knuckle down, get his head down, sort of thing.
I mean, you know, you hear all the stuff inside the French dressing room about what a leader he is.
Yeah.
You know, and I think he leads in different ways. And I think there's an argument also to say that some of the kind of more easily led members of the Manchester United dressing room see the bad things and think I can get away with that too. He comes away. He's something a bit different. He gets a bit more leeway than most people, but I think that might be the way of solving it. And I think, you know, we all believe that there's an amazing player there, and you know, taking fan opinions and our opinions away from it, you want to see amazing footballers, and he has got that kind of, you know, that X factor.
Well, he spoke about trying to. He would still build a team around him.
Yeah.
He said, "I thought that in the reserves when I saw him, and I basically haven't changed that notion." If he does stay, do you think Man United will then still back Ole to do that, or do you feel that maybe people higher up at the club might be like, well, there's no longevity in this, because this could be a Ronaldo thing, this could be a deal with Pogba saying just stay one more year, like what Fergie did with.
It could be, but I think most people would take that, and I think at the moment the way that Ole is with the fans, I think what Ole decides they kind of follow. You know, the interview yesterday, I said, look, they love you, you know, and they do. They love him for what he did, obviously, as a player. Of course, the treble and winning the European Cup in Barcelona, but it was more about the way he went about being a Manchester United player. I asked him yesterday, can you believe that a player would even think about leaving Manchester United?
Yeah.
Bearing in mind that he would never do that.
Yeah.
You know, so I think what Ole says goes, and if he says like Paul Pogba's my captain going forward, I think everyone gets behind that at the moment, because I don't think Ole can do anything wrong. But I think he recognises there's a short-term pressure on results that start obviously with Chelsea on the opening Sunday of the season.
Absolutely, it's going to be a tough start. I mean, on Ole, let's talk about Ole. I mean, you spend a lot of time around the camp, and Ole in particular, and you know, you mentioned you've known him for a number of years as well. The size of the job that he's got, and the feeling you've got around him, of how successful he can be, how much time he will get. We all know football fans and the football game can be very reactionary. Managers are getting sacked very quickly. Time is not of the essence at the minute in Premier League football. Do you think he'll get the time? Do you think he'll get the backing? Not from the fans, from the club.
I get the impression he will. And you know, one of the things I asked him yesterday when we started the interviews is how's the last 6 weeks gone? Because we've done a lot of thinking about it. And I think the nub of Manchester United going forward under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and having a successful start to the season is working out what on earth happened in those 12 games and then they got 2 victories. Now he was a bit coy about that yesterday, but I'm sure he's come. You know, United last season weren't fit. Jose Mourinho wasn't into fitness in the same way that some sides are, and I think you know they are going to be fitter, stronger, faster under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I think they blew up at the end of the season. I think there was a lot of other things going on. I think he was working out who stays, who goes, who does he build his team around. So I think all those issues come into play. I think there will be patience here. I think Ed Woodward backs him. I think he's also in a difficult situation. How do you sack the man that's one of the big heroes at Manchester United?
That's the situation the club have kind of put him in. Almost like a lot of rival fans said it, but you just give him the job because he's Ole and he did well in that period. How could you not? And I think we were doing a lot of videos at the time, and I was like, the board have a really difficult decision to make here because they probably didn't envision it go this well. How do you then go, actually, we're going to go for Pochettino?
Yeah, it's hard that. I mean, it's really, really hard because, I mean, I don't know for a fact, but I imagine the messages were pretty clear from Spurs that Pochettino wasn't going to come. And I think the two would have been linked. Now, I can't say that with any certainty, but it seems to me that the timing would dictate that. I was a bit surprised they did it when they did it. I was pleased they did because it gave us a massive story, and we were all pushing for that. I think partly because we buy into Ole and we like him as a person, but also on the back of that incredible winning run, it just seemed the right thing to do. I think in hindsight, and that's a perfect science, especially with Manchester United, they would have been better waiting till the end of the season, still making him manager, but it just wouldn't have asked so many questions.
Because literally, as soon as they announced him,
boom! You know, you're thinking, blimey, are the other players going to throw him under the bus like they threw?
Well, there was loads.
Mourinho
Everyone was saying
that.
You know, they were saying these players will switch off. This is what's wrong with this club. You know, speaking to fans week in, week out, outside games, especially in that awful run. That's what we were getting a lot of. This is why we shouldn't have given him the job. Or he's not qualified. Yeah, he's a United legend, but he's not the guy. Look what Pochettino's done, and you start getting all of that ruthlessness. Ole spoke about ruthlessness, and some United fans, not all. I've spoken to some. Oh, I just feel he's a bit of a puppet flex, I say, or I just feel like he's a bit of a yes man because he loves the club and comes from this era. He's got faith in players who maybe are not good enough to be here. Do you see that in him, or do you think he will stamp his foot
Yeah,
down?
this is going to sound
say,
like I'm making a massive, great Ole Gunnar Solskjaer defensive.
No.
We're talking about cricket at the moment, aren't we? You know, so there we are, bat it away. If he fixes you with his stare, then you know there's a different person in there. If you were upset and annoyed and he looks at you and then says something to you, you realise there's steel there. There's a lot of steel within it. He was the same as a player. He's a really, really clever bloke, really switched on bloke. And I know for a fact that, you know, Jesse Lingard clearly, his social media stuff wasn't great. You know, I'm a father. I don't want my kids seeing that. And one of them's a Manchester United fan. And
really
I think,
interesting.
you know, and I think he comes from that in the same sort of way. He's a dad. He's got 3 kids, and he read the riot act to Jesse Lingard and said that stops.
Did he address that?
Absolutely. As soon as they got back from pre-season, you know, that's where it stops there. You're not doing that as a Manchester United player. We've seen all the things with wearing suits and ties going to games. They've been reminded about how they go about things. And I promise you that Jesse Lingard won't do anything like that again. And I think, from what I'm told, in and around the Manchester United camp, in this pre-season, he's been the one that surprised people the most in terms of the way he's knuckled down and gone about it. All his stats are better than anybody else's, his sprints, his tackles, ground covered. So that might have been the right reminder. And I think, you know, father-son, I'm not saying that it's that sort of relationship, but sometimes players need to know that someone's got their back. And yeah, he got an absolute carpeting, but I think probably it was also another sign from Jesse Lingard thinking this bloke does actually care, and he does believe in me.
And he can change me as a person and a footballer. Similar to the traits, again, I know someone asked him, he asked him to get bored of the Sir Alex comparison, and he said no, but with how you just said he managed that situation, similar to what Fergie would have done to somebody who maybe made a mistake, or, you know, the infamous Eric Cantona situation, and he still managed to find
different in the sense that Sir Alex was almost a machine by the end. His instincts were so finely honed. He had complete and utter control of the football club, and that comes from winning things, from going through the period from 86 to 89 where they didn't, and there was all that sort of pressure on. You know, Ollie's not at that same phase, but I think what he is doing, he has sons and daughters around the same sort of age. His daughter plays for the under-18s, Manchester United's women's team. You know, his son Noah is 19. He has the instincts of a father, and I think it's more about that. And he knows exactly the role that social media plays because his kids were on social media. So I think it's the same but different. If that's not a fudge. You know, it's very hard comparing anybody with Sir Alex. And he values everything he says. But you know, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is his own man as well.
Right. Let's talk about. You talk about ins and outs and stuff like that, and people that are remaining. A lot of United fans wanted almost like a mass exodus. Get 8 out, get 9 out,
it's not going to happen.
10 in. Absolutely not going to happen. But we haven't seen any real significant goings, apart from obviously Ander Herrera, which we kind of all knew was going to happen anyway. Maybe we might have thought Matt might have moved on. A lot of people were surprised that he signed a contract extension, but hey ho. Do you think there'll be outgoings before?
Yeah, I do. I mean, just on the Mata thing, I think he's an important player, you know, especially as Herrera left. I got a little bit annoyed with some Manchester United fans who suddenly made him out to be a Roy Keane and Herrera simply because he runs around and covers lots of grass. And that should...
Can I just say...
I mean, I like the guy, and I think he's a good player. I don't think he's a Manchester United player or a linchpin Manchester United player who you build a side around.
Yeah,
I really don't know. He almost became a little bit of a myth. You know, if you're looking for players to cover lots of grass and lead by that example, that should be the criteria for every Manchester United player, not just Ander Herrera. But he's gone. I think they lack leaders in the dressing room at the moment. I think even Ollie would acknowledge that. And I think Mata, with his experience, I think clearly he won't start as many games as he started last season, but I think he's an important person to have in the camp. He's intelligent. From United's point of view, says all the right things. I like him as a person.
He's a really nice person. I've interviewed him.
And I think he's a decent player too. So I think there are lots of different reasons for keeping him. And I think it was more like they were going to keep him when Herrera left, just so they've got that kind of knowledge inside the dressing room. But in terms of outgoings, I think, you know, Darmian's become some sort of joke. It's like a Survivor thing, isn't it?
I don't know why Darmian...
I feel sorry for the guy.
Because anytime you call of him as well, even last season when he had to play in a few games, he's always fit, he's always ready. He's like Mr. Reliable.
He is.
He's like a new school John O'Shea. But
every time this time of year, we're saying off he goes. We know he's going to Juventus. We know he's going to Inter.
He should be the first one out.
It's amazing.
Instantly, and he's still here.
And he's earning quite a good salary as well, so maybe it's more fool us.
Rojo gave reassurances. He said, I sat down with Ollie and Ollie told me I'm part of his plan.
But again, you can't manage a situation where you've got 7 centre-backs, and if you bring in a new centre-back, then that's 8.
Exactly.
You know, I think Twanzebe has been given a real opportunity here. I don't think it'll happen for him this season. I think he's a really good player there, but I think it might be a loan situation rather than saying sit on the bench and watch someone else play. And then you've got to work out who your kind of starting centre-backs are. You're going to keep, I think, Jones and Smalling because they're survivors. I know
loads of you know the conception around Jones and Smalling that they're still here, and that's what I meant about the ruthlessness. United don't seem to be getting rid of any of this deadwood, they call
No, you're
it.
right, but you can't get rid of 8 or 9 players.
No.
But you'll come back at me and say, well, they've only got rid of 1 so far. You know, and I was expecting more. I don't think there's an argument that says that Rojo stays. I can't see. You know, he came across as the Argentinian assassin.
Yeah.
And he became like a puppy.
Yeah, it
you
really didn't work.
It'd be
Yeah.
lovely if he got a yellow card every now and then.
Yeah, exactly. That was what we wanted. That was what we were buying into.
So I think he probably goes.
Ashley Young, obviously with Wan-Bissaka coming, you would assume.
I think he slots in as a sort of, you know, backup right back again, head of morale, if you like, in the dressing room.
Yeah.
I mean, he really is the voice inside there.
Yeah.
So I think that gives him his role.
And if Luke Shaw gets injured, which I hope it doesn't, but you know, with his injury record, we could see Ashley Young back at left back again.
You could,
don't even have
quite
a
easily, but I mean, you know, could even play Daniel James there. You know, and talking about that, I know you're a bit down on what's happened in terms of incomings.
Yeah.
Daniel James has made a massive impression.
Yeah,
I've spoken to Ryan Giggs about him. He says he's lightning.
He really is.
I said what, quicker than you? And he said, nah.
He is literally rapid. And even in the game against Perth Glory, I mean, I know it was literally 2 teams Ollie put out, but from the first half, he definitely was a bright spark.
Yeah,
when he changed
was.
over to the right when he swapped with Chong, it didn't quite carry the same threat.
But he's also knitted into the Manchester United dressing room really, really quickly.
Yeah.
You know, I watched training yesterday, and he's someone who's clearly holding his own there. I mean, he's not the biggest of kids, and he's young, but there's a lot of mutual respect there. So I think he's one to look forward for the future. I think Wan-Bissaka is. I would not call him. He's an animal. He's huge.
Yeah,
You know, I'm not getting into a fight
Mr.
with Aaron
Spider-Man
Wan-Bissaka.
himself. He's a big guy.
He's
exactly.
a big unit. You know,
Yeah.
I felt sorry for him the other night because he was being told by Ollie to get up the touchline and make
Yeah, I
those
saw
breaks.
that. He kind of was.
Wasn't getting the ball, and I think he was worried in his own mind that then was he leaving it all exposed at the back.
exposed at the back.
But I think he's got to get. But
he's
you
got
know,
that to work on,
he's an
isn't he?
athlete.
Exactly.
I think they've probably spent over the odds on him.
Yeah.
But then isn't that always
That's
the case
the
in
going rate,
Manchester
right?
United? Yeah.
David De Gea. What's the latest around that in terms of how you see it?
I'm almost going to answer it in the same way that I answered the opening question about economics and Pogba. I think it's the same sort of situation. He'll sign a contract within 2 or 3 weeks. I think on the back of what happened last season, I don't think he's the goalkeeper that people thought he was. You know, in terms of other teams looking at him and think, I want him, but he's a commodity. Look at the wages. If we're talking about 350, 375, again, it's the same thing. If he's the best goalkeeper in the world, then people move things and change things. He wasn't the best goalkeeper in the world last year.
Yeah,
you know, at the World Cup caused him problems, and he didn't seem to get that out of his system.
Yeah.
So I think with all those things, I think his advisors are probably saying, look, you can go somewhere else, but there aren't many people who can spend what you would cost. You're not going to get those wages.
Stay here. United love you already. They'll give
put.
you what you want.
And he'll say all the right things when it happens. So I think, again, economics probably mean that David De Gea will still be
And on the economics, in terms of, you look at Real Madrid, they've got Courtois, they're sorted. You look at Barcelona, they've got to
Well, that's the thing. Where do you go? If you're David De Gea, you want to stay in that bracket of leading European clubs, and every position is filled. You know,
and it's more difficult for keepers.
And there's an argument about PSG, but even they have finite spending.
Yeah.
You know, and he won't go to Man City.
Lukaku, he said after the Perth game, I think you'll know something next week. Ollie's kind of he was saying we haven't received any bids for any of our players so far, but that doesn't mean that people are talking. What's your stance on where he?
Well, if I can answer your question with a question first, what do you think United fans think? Do they think he's the answer?
United fans want him gone. Most United fans I speak to.
I'll ask you about his body language here on tour. Do you think it's positive or negative?
I don't think he's really made an effort to go over to fans and do that whole thing. I think it looks nailed on that he will leave. But just what is the most worrying thing from a United point of view, United fans' point of view, is a lot of fans I speak to is it looks like Man United are trying to recoup a vast amount of money. But again, it's kind of like you talk about De Gea didn't put himself in a great shop window because he had Lukaku hasn't also as well, and he hasn't really fit into the way we.
But they also know that Antonio Conte is desperate to have him. Yeah. You know, so that gives you a lot of strength in the kind of negotiating thing. It's interesting, isn't it? The Italian window stays open, I think, a couple of weeks after the English window. So
that deal will happen.
I think it will. I think it's inevitable. I don't think you want a disenchanted or disenfranchised Romelu Lukaku in a Manchester United camp. It causes too much.
Exactly.
And I don't think he fits in really with the way that Ollie wants to play football.
No, and we've seen that because he chose Rashford over him hundreds of
But
times.
if you look, and I'm sure United fans have done this better than I have. If you look at him playing for West Brom or look at him playing for Everton,
that's the most frustrating
thing. He was a beast.
That's the most.
This was a guy that full tilt, 14, 15 stone is scaring people. Yeah. We've never seen that at Manchester United.
And I think being a Manchester United striker, you look at the strikers we've had: Rooney, Van Nistelrooy, York, Cole, etc. Link-up play is key. You control key. How you knit the play together. Yeah. It's not. I think at teams like Everton and West Brom, they play a lot on the counter attack, and they get him facing the goal a lot, running at people and getting in channels. Where I think at United, you need more strings to your bow than that.
I've never seen him in a position where he receives the ball and his control isn't always as good as it should be, and then turns, spins and goes.
It just doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. It slows everything up.
He does.
He's a predator in front of goal. If you put him 6-10 yards
out, we saw glimpses of that last season.
Yeah.
Was it the game against Southampton at home when he scored them 2 for?
He'll put it away, but then the argument is he's a flat trap bully as well. He scores against the weaker teams in the Premier League,
and it's just not what we need.
And I think this thing will play out, and I think United fans should be calm in the sense that there's a plan. Should Lukaku go, there'll be someone else.
That's what I was going to ask you in terms of if he does go. I mean, we'll talk about the kids as a separate question after this. But if he does go, could it be a Mason Greenwood promotion then, or would they go into the market and say, no, we need another forward?
I think you do need another forward, and I think Ollie will look at that as well. You just need. We don't know that Rashford's going to be that number 9. Even he doesn't know. He's talking about playing left, right.
Yeah.
We know it's probably going to be 3 up front. I think he can play down the middle, but I think you also need another option. I'm not suggesting it's a Romelu Lukaku style player.
We spoke about Alexis Sanchez getting him firing again, didn't he?
That's a difficult thing. That's still an unknown, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I've got to say, when I saw that deal happen, you thought if you get Alexis Sanchez that play for Arsenal, it's a lot of money. Yeah, but it's worth taking that gamble.
Yeah.
And it just hasn't.
Now
happened.
It's been probably.
He almost looks as though he's like Aladdin and he's lost the magic bottle.
Yeah.
He's got it, he's rubbing it, and
the genie just won't come out.
and you watch how defenders play with him. They're waiting for him to make the mistake. They're waiting for him to miscontrol the ball.
And he's so predictable.
With that little spin round.
But
it's horrible. You don't want to see a really talented footballer in that sort of situation. Yeah. But it happens time and time again, and it has over the years for Manchester United. Playing for this club is not like playing for many other clubs. The pressure of that, being inside Old Trafford and being inside this club is a goldfish bowl.
The youth. Tuanzebe you speak of, Fossa-Mensah, obviously the main ones, Gomez, Chong, etc., Greenwood. How many of them do you expect to start getting a chance this year? Garner as well. How many of them do you expect to get a chance this year? How many do you expect to go out on loan?
I think there will be a lot of loans, and I don't think United fans should be kind of negative about that. I think there's a problem with under 23 football, under 19 football about the way it's worked out, and I think these kids are better going out into Championship or even League One and learning their trade. That sounds a bit like an old man response, but I just know from what the coaches tell me that under 23 football, it's almost not fit for purpose.
Yeah.
So you've got to look at what aids their development.
Yeah.
And I'm Ipswich fan, so they can all come to Ipswich in League One. They'll transform us when I get back up.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think Tuanzebe, I'd like to see him kept, but I think if he sits on the bench and watches, then you may be just stopping his development.
Especially if Maguire comes, and then he's going to partner Lindelof, or he's going to partner Bayer.
And on that, I think Manchester United have got more options than just Maguire.
Yeah.
I think they're keen. I think Manchester City are keen, but I think Leicester have got to be careful because is he a better player than Virgil van Dijk? I don't think he is.
No.
So I think there are options there. So, but if another centre back comes in, which I think will certainly happen.
Maybe going back to Villa. I know Villa have strengthened quite a lot.
Yeah, he could do. Absolutely.
I could see that being beneficial. He was on the whole journey with them last year. They trust him. They like him.
It's just from Ollie's point of view, putting him somewhere where he's going to get better. He's going to blossom, and I think he's been the young player of the year already, so they know that potential's there. So I think that will happen for him. But I think he'll also gain from being on the tour here. I think with Gomez, I think the jury's a little bit out on him because I think he's small. He's got great feet.
Slight,
we've seen plenty of players over the years from Manchester United who haven't quite made it because they've not been quite good enough as a small player and have gone on to do great careers. I think Chong, I don't know how he plays with the hair. Because the peripheral vision thing.
He doesn't even have a band.
How do you see what's there and there? But he does.
Yeah, he does.
Again, I think as he's come through the ranks, I think again there's probably a school of thought that says, look, go somewhere where it's not quite so easy. Where people don't, aren't there for your every beck and call, and see how hard you are.
When it's tough. When the game gets tough.
Garner, everyone says is great. You saw his second touch. And his first touch to get out of his feet. His second touch, it's goal. People are saying he's like Carrick. I think he has those sort of things.
But then we're linked to a Longstaff and say 50 million. When it's like, well, if you're going to pay 50 million for Longstaff, he's played 9 Premier League games. Why would you not just?
But I think those thoughts are going on behind the scenes as well.
Because that's what they're toying with. Well, actually, I mean,
but what about a situation where in 3 years' time they sign Longstaff? So let's say they sign for 20-25 million. You've got Longstaff and Garner in the midfield. People are trying to look that far forward, and then. Some of the other ones.
Ollie stuck his neck out on Greenwood.
Yeah, Greenwood.
He really stuck his neck out. He said he'll get goals next season.
You look at him last season. He's slight. He wasn't much bigger than me. He's come back and he looks like a bloke now. He's
really
big.
Maturing,
and
two-footed, natural.
People behind the scenes really like him. I think it's a lot to say. You're the other striking option to Marcus Rashford. That's a really, really big ask for anyone. But I think he'll be in and around the first team squad, and I can't see United letting him go, unless, of course, they bring in a real big hitter of a centre forward. And again, they decide that you know, that's better for his development. But I think at the moment the school of thought is that Mason Greenwood will play a little bit of first team football.
Yeah. Lastly, just a quick couple of minutes on the Glazers, on the ownership, and I'm not saying do you want him to leave the club or so. I don't mean like that. United fans, as you well know, a lot of them are anti-Glazers. It causes a big stir. There's a big campaign for Glazers out, etc., etc. Where do you stand on?
It's difficult, isn't it? You know, 'cause I'm not going to be a patsy or an arguer on behalf of them or trying to toe the club line. I mean, you know, and I know United fans don't like the fact that it is a successful business project. You know, there's not a more successful sporting organisation from a financial point of view anywhere in the world, and it's incredible when you think that they haven't won major trophies, really. I think it's difficult. I think I see the momentum among fans swinging again to kind of green and gold. It's difficult, isn't it? If they go and spend what they spent already, they've spent what, 60 million already? If they go and spend 80 million on another player, say a Harry Maguire or another centre forward, and another 80 million on centre forward, well, that's, you know, almost.
I do think they do spend them. I do think the lack of investment, I wouldn't say has been. I just think our recruitment's been poor because even under.
But I'm not sure, I don't know if you can blame them or not.
I don't know. Money, but I think people are more pissed off with them in the terms of. I think they're just taking money out. They're bleeding it dry and stuff like that. They haven't actually put as much money as they've taken out.
I understand that, and they are the facts that matter.
Yeah.
You know, but I think they give the managers, you know, pretty much free rein.
Yeah.
I think in football, it's be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't want to bring back to Ipswich, but we got rid of Mick McCarthy, and there were lots of reasons for doing that. We did it very badly. There was no class in that, and we thought we were going in the right direction. And now we're in League One, and I think sometimes United fans have got to realise, actually, what could be next? You know, you talk about them taking money out of the club. They take money out of the club, but somebody else could do something even worse. But what you're right, you want a long-term view. You want to know in 10 years' time that Manchester United are going to be where they were 10 years ago. You know, not where they are right now.
Absolutely. Well, James, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
No, cool. Nice to see you. It's brilliant.
I know.
Anytime.
We keep. I mean, the first time we met was in Munich, right?
Absolutely. You guys are about as much as we are.
Exactly. Look, just quickly before we finish off, fan channels and the evolution of the YouTube space. I know you guys are mainstream media. You think that gap's closing? Do you?
Yeah, I do. I think it is. I think, you know, you've got to reflect what fans want. I think everyone's trying to find out what fans want, and I think, you know, again, bringing Ipswich into it, I want to see people who are passionate about my football club, and I think Manchester United fans want to see people who are passionate about their fans, about their club, and I think it's an opinion-based thing. You'll think things that other fans don't think, but everyone seems to respect that you just kind of get along with it. So I think, yeah, media is always changing, and I think the boundaries between mainstream and you know, YouTube and blogs and things like that, those lines aren't quite as defined. So I think we're all in this together, to be honest.
Absolutely.
It's quite fun.
I'm starting to enjoy it. Just like, I mean, I've grown up watching stuff crazy.
I know, but what's not fun about sitting on a balcony over Perth?
Amazing, exactly.
In the middle of the winter.
Singapore as well, and China, and hopefully we'll catch up.
I just want to know who pays your bills.
Gosh, if I reveal that, then we'll be in big trouble. Nice
Top
one.
stuff.
Thank
All right,
you very
brilliant.
much. Cheers.
Thank you.
Big respect to all you guys for watching that video, and make sure you check out more United Stand content here and here. Yeah, like, subscribe and share, and the socials are along the bottom. You know what to do. Go get following. Go, 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 go.